Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at the revenue function and break-even point. So if we have a set selling price for an item, which we're going to call S, then the revenue function is just S times X. How much we're selling it for times how many we sold. When the cost and the revenue are equal, we have what's called a break-even point. You neither make money nor lose money. You have broke even. So given the cost and revenue functions, find the break-even point. So the cost function is 30x plus 200, and the revenue is 50x. So again, the break-even point is when they are equal. So we're going to set them equal. 30x plus 200 equals 50x. And then we just solve it. So we put all of our x's on one side. Whoops. I use my marker here. So I'm going to subtract 30x from both sides, and then divide by 20, and x is 10. So it's a point, so I need x, comma, and then either C or R, but remember the lovely part about the break-even point is that C equals R. So to find the second part of our point, I plug x into either C or R, and to check that I did it correctly, I can plug it into both and make sure I get the same thing. So if I plug it into C of 10 is 30 times 10, which is 300, plus 200. So I get 500. If I plug it into R, I get 50 times 10, which is also 500. So they are the same, so that means my 10 is correct. And my answer, the break-even point, is 10, 500. Oops, that was supposed to be a different line. The answer is 10, 500. Okay. For number B, C of x equals 200x plus 50,000, R of x equals 300x. So again, I'm going to set them equal to each other and then solve. So just like before, I'm going to put all my x's on one side. So I have 50,000 equals 300 minus 200 is 100x. Divide both sides by 100, and I'm left with 500. And then again, I can plug it into C, plug it into R, make sure I get the same thing, and hopefully I do. I should be getting 300 times 500, 15, followed by 4 zeros, and then 200 times 500, if I plug it into C, is 10, followed by 4 zeros, plus 50,000, and that is also 150,000. So in either case, I should be getting 150,000, and, okay, I swear I fixed that, that's a dollar sign, 500, $150,000. Okay, so that is the break-even point. So again, make sure it is a point, it's x, comma, and then C or R, it should be the same number either way. So it's a unit and then a dollar amount. Graph the cost and revenue functions, clearly labeling the break-even point. So cost is a line, we've talked about it before. Revenue is also a line, it's actually a really nice line. If I'm looking at R being S times X, remember it's still MX plus B. So S is M, and then B is 0. So I know that the revenue function always goes through the origin. And then the break-even point is going to be where these two lines intersect. So for our first one, we have the cost function is 100x plus 2,000, and R of x is 150x. So before I go about trying to graph them, I'm going to find the break-even point. So we set them equal to each other, and then solve for x. And hopefully you'll do this on your own, and you'll see that we get 40. And then we'll plug 40 into either R or C. It's always easier to plug it into R because you're just multiplying it by whatever S is. And you should be getting 6,000. So in order to graph my pictures, or my lines, each line needs 2 points in order to graph it. We have the y-intercepts for each point. So So for C, the cost function, the y-intercept is 0, 2,000. For our revenue function, it's 0, 0. Remember, it goes to the origin. And then we also have a point that's on both of them. So we need 2 points for each line, but one of our points is on both lines. So as long as we have the 2 y-intercepts and the break-even point, we can graph both of these lines. So just like with the cost function, we want to make sure that our numbers make sense, the ones that we're choosing. And we don't have to do a whole lot here. We need to have the point 0, 2,000. We need to have the origin, which is already there for us. And we need to have the break-even point. So I need to make sure that in my x's, I know where 2,000 and 6,000 are. Sorry, for the y's. I need to know where 2,000 and 6,000 are. And again, I want my break-even point to be somewhere near the middle of the graph. I want to be able to see things on all sides of it. So I'm going to make 6,000 somewhere in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to do something like this, where each of those points are going to be 2,000. So I don't really have a lot of room to write, so just remember each of those are going to be 2,000. And then for the x's, I have 2 zeros and a 40. And again, I want this point to be somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to put 40 here, and then kind of just work backwards and label some points. So my 0, 0 is here, my 0, 2,000 is here, and my 46,000 somewhere right near the middle. So these 3 points won't make a line on their own. Remember, these are from 2 different lines. So to make my lines, I'm going to connect each of my y-intercepts with the break-even point. Oops, that was terrible. And something like that. And then I always label them so that I can remember which one's which. So the top one after the break-even point is the revenue function, and the cost is on the bottom. But notice before I got to the break-even point, they were switched. The cost function was on top, the revenue function was on the bottom. This tells me that before the break-even point, I was losing money. It cost more to produce them than what I was getting back. But after the break-even point, so everything over here, the revenue is on top, which means I'm making more money than it took to cost it, so I'm making a profit. And we'll talk about profit in the next section. Okay, so make sure that you read through the book and try out the homework, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.